thanks for joining me. Robert Morningstar, in an article on UFOdigest.com, indicated this lower roof here that I'm pointing at with my cursor as a shooting location. And Morningstar talked about Laura Loomer laser tracking a bullet strike on a concrete block, while another article says the bullet strike was on the ground. I am trying to reach Laura Loomer for a possible interview or to clarify this information, because I can't get it. I haven't seen any sources where she offers the information directly from herself. Robert Morningstar also references Mike Adams' acoustic analysis, but Mike Adams never talked about this roof right here. Adams indicates two ranges, one shooter about the distance of the Mandalay Bay and one shooter at about half the distance to the Mandalay Bay. After studying the area, Adams mentions the Mandalay Bay, Oasis Apartments, so here's Oasis Apartments. Then the venue would be over here. Oasis Apartments is here. And Mike Adams talks about the roof of the AM/PM convenience store. And I believe this is the AM/PM convenience store that he's talking about right here. And again, the venue would be right in here. And Mike Adams talks about an elevated dirt mound at the construction site. In a moment we will talk about the construction site where the two Ferris wheel columns are, but first back to Robert Morningstar talking about this roof here. Morningstar has nothing to base that theory off of, so I'm dismissing this information presented by Robert Morningstar, and I already removed it from my videos because, as you can see, I'm using Google Earth. It doesn't appear that this particular roof is accessible, while these roofs indicated by Hank Sullivan over here are accessible, but only by security and maintenance engineering employees. And I'm just going to zoom in and show you guys what I'm talking about. You can see how somebody could get on these roofs that Hank Sullivan was talking about. But I'm looking at this, what Robert Morningstar was talking about, this particular roof, and I don't see how anyone can get up there. TheEpicTimes.com released a story about Laura Loomer's bullet strike laser track, and they released this photo showing the track line going right through one of the SkyVue super wheel support columns at the construction site mentioned by Mike Adams. The thing about the SkyVue super wheel is that they built these columns. Here they are here. You can see them on the screen. But then they never actually built the super wheel. The project was canceled and the property is for sale. It would be possible to shoot through an opening in one of the columns or from a temporary platform set up at the top. One person offered a photo they claim is the inside of one of the towers, but there are obviously two towers. This same person previously claimed that the towers weren't there at the time of the shooting, when video footage clearly shows the towers there. So I've dismissed, I'm not going to mention the person's name. They have a YouTube channel. I'm not even going to mention it, but I've dismissed their information as well as being inaccurate. There's an entrance here that you can see at the bottom of this tower, and there's one here where you can actually go into the tower. Which brings me to another very strange construction site in the area that is extremely controversial. Resorts World Las Vegas and the Echelon Place project, originally the site of Stardust Casino. In 1976, Stardust was exposed for skimming $7 million from slot machines to the Mafia and was labeled a Mafia casino. In 1983, with new owners, the Stardust was caught doing the same thing again. The Stardust Casino closed in 2006 and Echelon Place project was announced. Between 2006 and 2007, the Stardust was demolished and Echelon Place project began. Just over 1 year later, in 2008, Morgan's Hotel Group and General Growth Properties claimed they couldn't continue construction because they ran out of money. A conspiracy emerged that the Echelon Place project was just a cover for a secret underground maglev train that goes from the new secret military base near Area 51 to Las Vegas under both the Luxor and Bellagio. In 2013, Boyd Gaming sold the construction site property to the Genting Group, who announced they were going to build Resorts World Las Vegas. The problem is, it's now the year 2020, and the property and construction site still looks the same as it did in 2008, when the previous owners claimed they ran out of money. So for 13 years now, and counting, the property and construction site has basically looked the same. It's possible that a tunnel boring machine was on its way from the new secret Sandia military base or Area 51 and disrupted power to the Bellagio in 2004. And there could be additional reasons why they used this property to access a secret tunnel. For example, they may have needed to replace a tunnel boring machine, or they may have wanted to remove excavated dirt and rock locally rather than sending it all the way back to the base through the tunnel, especially when you consider all the groundwater in the area that would need to be pumped out and possibly filled in with dirt. There's a lot of water under the ground in this area. A little later, we will consider a theory that shooters could have escaped using the underground maglev train. But to be clear, when you consider the SkyVue Superwheel and Echelon Place project, we could be seeing a pattern of construction sites in and around Las Vegas and elsewhere that are being used for nefarious purposes. And before I get into some more information, I just want to show you guys. I drew a line here. So this is Resorts World that is supposedly in information provided by John Lear suggests that this is just a cover for a project that's going on under the ground related to an underground high-speed maglev train. And so this property, and I just explained it pretty quickly, but this property, just to kind of reiterate, it's this construction site. First of all, it's somewhere in the ballpark of 70 acres. It's a lot of property. I've seen articles and stuff where it says that it's 60 something acres, and then I've seen where it said that it was 80 something or so acres. But so we'll say 70. Which is in between. And then so supposedly it connects underground a maglev subway that goes right here from the Luxor, and you can see where I drew a line, and it goes through the Bellagio, and which I believe is this building here. Yeah, and then it goes to Resorts World property, which they're saying is just a cover for what they're working on underground. And then way, I mean, that's far away. Area, we're not really talking right now so much about Area 51, but there's a new secret military base that John Lear talks about It's not the old Sandia. They named it Sandia to confuse people because there was an old Sandia, but this is the new Sandia. And I'll show on the screen a picture of John Lear's map, but it's hard to find. What I did was I put Silent Valley or Silent Canyon because on John Lear's map it says it shows Silent Canyon, and then he shows the new Sandia somewhere above or north of Silent Canyons. But you can see that's quite a distance there, and it's not unreasonable to assume that they wouldn't want, after coming all this way under the ground with the boring machine, that they might kind of set up shop here and maybe start excavating dirt and rock from this location, for example, instead of sending it all the way back through the tunnel to the origin location at the base on these conveyor belts is what they would normally use, I believe. Okay, next I'm going to draw your attention to the Las Vegas Convention Center, which you'll notice is not far at all away from Resort World. Elon Musk founded the Boring Company to build underground tunnels, and the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority has a contract with the Boring Company to build the Vegas Loop, an underground electric transport that will go to the Las Vegas Convention Center. Because the underground tunnel is only going to be 1 mile long, you have to wonder if this project is also a cover for a secret project like the secret underground MAGLEV, for example. Because who would go through all that trouble to plan and fund an underground tunnel that's only going to be 1 mile long? And speaking of Area 51, Bob Lazar worked at S4 reverse engineering an extraterrestrial UFO. And Colonel Corso in the book The Day After Roswell talked about being part of a secret program where the military would shoot down and then recover UFOs for private industry to reverse engineer for corporate use. This then would be the military-industrial complex General President Eisenhower warned us about. From this reverse engineering, accelerated particle beam devices, fiber optics, lasers, integrated circuit chips, and Kevlar were developed, but most of the developments have been kept secret. And for a little history, Corso said this shadow government formed Majestic 12 under the leadership of Admiral Hillenkotter to oversee all of this. Breaking news just coming in from Richard Dolan: the Pentagon declassified 3 UFO videos they're admitting now are authentic. So this is a huge step forward in the Stephen Greer disclosure movement. We'll be right back after this break. Coming up next, we will review some body-worn camera footage, LVMPD radio traffic, and the Mandalay Bay didn't release interior building surveillance footage recorded during the shooting because they had too much to hide, but they did release exterior building surveillance footage I found interesting. We'll take a look at that as well after. And I want to begin by mentioning the time. You can see right now on the body-worn camera is in Zulu time, and it says 05 100 hours 52 minutes and 40 seconds, and what that translates to is right now it's 10:52 p.m. And what we're getting ready to listen to is they're going to say on the radio, confirmed Mandalay Bay and Alibaba and Giles are the first 2 shooting locations.
We're going to move up that way.
CP is in the south central, confirming the Mandalay Bay and Alibaba and Niles are the two CP locations. We have a third.
Okay, it is now 11:05 p.m. and we're getting ready to say, hear them say shots fired at New York, New York.
Let him go, you know. It's weird he comes in here with a backpack and crap.
Did you guys already put it out there?
Yeah. But I'm waiting for them to get back to me on where we're taking them. Because if we could take them out.
Dude, everyone's Four Seasons in the Boulevard, I think, is the CP.
Son of a bitch, dude. That means you're going to run by him. You guys all right? You need water or anything?
And again, they said multiple shots fired at New York, New York. Okay, it is now 11:07 p.m. and we're getting ready to hear them say that there's a shooter at the front desk of the New York, New York. It's still 11:07 p.m. and they're getting ready to say that there's a black vehicle at Luxor Valet that's 425 suspicious.
Shit.
Just advise me, a vehicle black Audi in their family in the Luxor possibly has a 4.5. He's been FMR sticking out, so don't let the officers go to the valet on the Luxor.
The officers do not go to the valet of the Luxor. There's probably a black vehicle with a 4.5. Requires unit. Sorry, for Luxor valet.
Okay, it's now 11:09 p.m. and they're getting ready to say that there's an active shooter coming down the escalator from New York, New York to Excalibur.
Hey, you're thinking about if we take fire, where are you going to move to get cover, all right?
Okay, it's now 11:11 p.m. and they're getting ready to say that a suspect is coming down the Mandalay Bay elevator. And I only want to point this out because the only way that that could be possible is if a suspect was allowed to escape. And the reason why is because at this point, by 11:11 p.m., the building was secure and the elevators were on lockdown, and they were only turning them on, or they were only accessible if they security and the police were allowing them to be accessible.
Here, right here.
On your left. We're up here.
You're good up here.
Good.
Good.
Do you have any updates on
We got a team on this side here. We got a team right here.
Right here? All right, elevators over here.
Yeah, we got one here.
I'm going to tell them.
Right here. Mandalay Bay.
Hey guys, SWAT just came over. Said they got intel. He's coming down the elevator right now. So SWAT just came over and said they got intel. He's coming down one of these elevators right now.
Guys?
Yeah.
Holy I thought they locked it down.
I thought so too.
Alright, I got
Okay, I'm gonna get another guy and get this.
Okay, it's now 11:15 p.m. and they're getting ready to say that there's an active shooter at Tropicana.
Squad deal with the
Okay, it's now 11:20 p.m. and they're getting ready to say that shots are fired at New York, New York.
Control, stand by. We just got 4 citizens shots just fired. Shots in the park area of New York, New York.
Copy, agency advisor, 2 shots fired in the park area of New York, New York.
Okay, it's now 11:22 p.m. and they're getting ready to say that medical personnel are getting shot at from the Tropicana.
What was the drug paraphernalia? You know what I mean? Hey, you gotta run him real quick. Run him.
Control 374. I got medics reporting that they're getting shot at from Tropicana.
Agency advisor, over. We have a strike in the middle instead of the Tropicana. Is right to the Tropicana.
Being around the house yourself, going there.
It's now 11:26 p.m. and they're getting ready to say that the lobby area of Excalibur has a victim that's been shot. And then one of the LVMPD officers wonders if the victim possibly was shot at the New York, New York, and ran or made their way to the Excalibur, or whether they were actually shot at the Excalibur.
Fired inside New York, New York.
They were checking that park area out.
So there's shots fired at Excalibur. Someone got shot at Excalibur.
Okay, it's now 11:27 p.m. and a suspicious device is found in 32134 or 32135. They don't specify which suite it was found in. And I want you guys to remember this, bear it in mind, because I've got some additional information we're going to talk about later regarding this suspicious device that was found.
In the room, how did that fucking car get over there? But like they didn't notice it until this was going on, or
Yeah.
Report confirming that's the suspicious device. Lock it down, hold it, and make sure it just clear the area and do nothing further with it at this particular time.
Okay, it's now 11:28 p.m. and they're getting ready to say that shots are fired at Caesars Palace Hotel and Casino and Bellagio.
You have to clear like all these casinos now, dude.
Reported 19 at that place.
19 what?
I don't know.
Right now, shots fired at Caesars and the Bellagio.
They're working their way down. I think they're swatting. Maybe.
Can I get a call sign or broadcast for 155
Okay, it's now 11:41 p.m. and they're getting ready to say that a male is walking into Bellagio employee entrance with a gun. And shortly after, they talk about a suspect reported on a helipad.
I can push my strike further north from home.
Agency advisor, the male walking into the Bellagio.
Paris, the scene was clear. We're going to clear the nightclub. Shut up.
Agency advisor, that's the Bellagio employee entrance. There's a male walking in with a rifle. Bellagio employee entrance.
Okay, it's now 11:48 p.m. and they're getting ready to say that a female with a gunshot wound to the head is at the Tropicana.
Manager of Bellagio.
Okay, it's still 11:48 p.m. and we're getting ready to hear an LVMPD officer say that in his opinion, it sounded like a M240 belt-fed machine gun, and I'll show a picture in a little while of what an M240 machine gun looks like. It's belt-fed, and let's remember that a lot of these police officers are former military and they're familiar with firearms, so they don't just say stuff without knowing.
Kind of slow fire.
Yeah. It wasn't an AK, and it wasn't one of ours, it wasn't like a SAW or nothing.
Yeah.
It sounded almost like either 240,
And,
you know?
that's what I was kind of thinking
Yeah.
at first, like, from the speed of it, you know?
Have one suspect down in that room.
Okay, we're in room. Hey, it's approximately K9 office. In South Central by tab with the SWAT CP. Are we going all? No, not yet. Let's head there. Where's your car? Our cars are by the shark. We're going to walk the people up on our rails.
Okay, and they also said that one suspect is down over at New York, New York, and that they're going to walk over to the Luxor, it sounded like. And that was between 11:48 and 11:49 p.m. It is now 11:52 p.m. and they're getting ready to say that a male suspect in a black t-shirt has a long rifle and that they were last seen on, and it's a little bit hard to distinguish what he says on the radio. It sounds like he either says Sheffield.
Actually, you know what? I've got charges in my vehicle. I'm going to take Sean and go to my vehicle. We'll meet you over at Shark Reef.
Shark Reef.
Yep, and that's where Corey and those guys are supposed to meet you as well. All right? Sean, good news.
Okay, so shooting was reportedly coming from 7 different resort casinos, and out of those 7, five of them, including the Mandalay Bay, are MGM. So Mandalay Bay, New York, Luxor, Excalibur, and Bellagio are all MGM. And then there was also shooting reported at Tropicana and Caesars Palace Hotel and Casino, and those 2 are not MGM. But I found it interesting that most of the shooting was coming from MGM properties. We heard that radio transmission that said that there was confirmed Mandalay Bay and Alibaba and Giles as being where the early shooting came from. So let's take a look at Alibaba Lane now. Here's Alibaba Lane and Giles Street, and you can see that there's not much there, which means that a person was probably either on the ground or in a vehicle shooting from that area, or it's possible that they were shooting from one of these other locations, like these column towers, the Oasis apartments, this construction site like the Dirt Mound, or maybe even over here at the AM/PM. But I don't see how they would confuse those areas with this area here. So it sounds like there was a shooter on the ground or in a vehicle in this area. And then at 11:05 p.m. we hear shots fired at New York, New York. So here's the New York property over here, and then at 11:07 p.m. we got reports that there was a shooter at the front desk at the New York. Then at 11:09 p.m. We got a report that a shooter was working their way from the New York towards the Excalibur, and a report that they came down an escalator. So again, here's the New York over here. And these are the escalators right here. There's an overpass where you can walk across the traffic, and then you can come down either this escalator or this escalator over here, and then this is the Excalibur right here. So it makes perfect sense. These are not false reports, I don't think. They make sense because then at 11:15 we get a report that there's an active shooter at the Tropicana, and the Tropicana is right here. This is the Tropicana. So what they could have done was they could have came down this escalator, just like the report said, walk along here, go up this escalator here, cross over to the Tropicana. Here's the Tropicana. Because at 11:15, like I said a moment ago, there's a report of an active shooter at the Tropicana. At 11:20, we got a report, shots fired at the New York parking area. At 11:22 p.m., medical personnel are reporting being shot at from the Tropicana. So we were just talking about how a shooter, the reports indicated that a shooter went from New York. They were working their way towards the Excalibur. That's this. A report that they went down an escalator, and then there was the first short report of shots at the Tropicana at 11:15, and then again at 11:22, medical personnel are reporting being shot at from the Tropicana, and then why would you think that medical personnel are a fake call, are a diversion? They're not. If medical personnel are reporting being shot at from the Tropicana, I believe it. I believe they were being shot at from the area of the Tropicana property. And then at 11:26, the lobby area of the Excalibur has a victim who's shot. So the police responded when they went there. They discovered a gunshot victim, and that was came across on the radio when they responded, and they found a gunshot victim. We heard that on the radio. At 11:27 p.m., that suspicious device was reportedly found in either 32134 or 32135, and I just want you to remember that because I'm going to go over that. I've got some information to present about that coming up once I finish this up. At 11:28 p.m., shots are reportedly fired at Caesars and Bellagio. Now, I find this interesting. I'll explain why. Where's Bellagio? Here's Bellagio. There's Bellagio right there. This is the property, and Caesars is right across the street. It's this property here. And what you can see is happening is, as I just demonstrated, the shooters are working their way up the strip. So the first shooting comes from the Mandalay Bay and Alibaba and Giles, which is over here. There's a shooter probably on the ground. And then it worked its way up the strip. New York was the next location where they were shooting, which is over here. Then a shooter was seen going towards the Excalibur, down an escalator towards the Tropicana, and next thing you know, we hear about shooting at the Tropicana. And then after that, it was confirmed that there was somebody wounded at Excalibur. Possibly that they came from the New York, and fled to the Excalibur after they got shot. We're not sure. And then the shooters are working their way up, because like I said, 11:28 p.m. We get reports of shooting at the Bellagio and Caesars Palace and Hotel Casino, which is over here. And at 11:41, there's a report of a male walking into the Bellagio employee entrance with a gun. I'm not going to talk about the suspect reportedly on the helipad, because I don't know what helipad they're talking about. There's no helipad on the Mandalay Bay. So I'm just not going to really talk about that or go over that. I don't have enough information for it. Maybe they were talking about a shooter on a roof. I just don't know about that. But the interesting thing is, you can see that the shooting was working its way this way. And I drew a line where the underground maglev train goes, according to John Lear's information. It goes from the Luxor to the Bellagio here, and then up to this area, Resort World property, and then it goes to the secret base way up there in the desert. So John Lear also thinks that, and I kind of agree with him, that some of the shooters might have gotten away in that underground maglev train. So it would make sense, because they're working their way this way, and then they could have got away under the Bellagio. Like I said, there's the secret entrance to the underground maglev train. We also found out that the MGM was helping certain people get out of the area, and then hid them at the Vidara. Among them, Jesus Campos was hid at the Vidara under armed guard, and so was Brian Hodge. Brian Hodge has been implicated as either being a shooter or assisting the shooters. And we found out that the MGM hid Brian Hodge at the Vidara as well. So it looks like some of the people involved were helped by the MGM, and they were hid at the Vidara, and others may have gotten away, possibly through this underground subway. By 11:48 p.m., LVMPD was able to respond to the reports of shots fired at the Tropicana, and they discovered a female with a gunshot wound to the head. We heard that broadcast over the radio. At 11:48, we also heard an officer talk about he believed that some of the shooting was coming from an M40 belt-fed machine gun. I'll show you a picture of that at some point. If I can't get it on the screen now, I'll show it after. At 11:52 p.m., we hear the report on the radio of a male suspect in a black t-shirt with a long rifle, last seen on Sheffield, it sounds like they say, or Shark Ridge. It's kind of hard to hear the radio transmission. That particular part of the transmission is hard to hear. You can clearly hear them say that there's a male suspect in a black t-shirt that was had a long rifle that was last seen on, and then it's hard to tell what they say. It sounds like they say Sheffield. Alright, now I want to talk about this suspicious device that was found, and we heard it talked about in a radio transmission at 11:27 p.m. They found the device in one of the Mandalay Bay suites, either 132, 134, 134 or 135. They didn't specify on the radio. But believe me when I tell you that they don't refer to a regular cell phone as a suspicious device, or a regular cell phone charger as a suspicious device. And the person on the radio was very emphatic. You could hear the female say, to lock the device down, and they were handling it very seriously. And I think personally that it ties into some other information that I came across. A man connected to a communications device discovered in Stephen Paddock's hotel room at the Mandalay Bay killed his daughter and then himself on October 4th, 2017, the day after the FBI raided his home. On October 4th, 2017, Fairport, New York police confirmed John Beelman killed his daughter Nicole and then himself. His daughter Nicole was 27 and reportedly had Rett syndrome. She was confined to a wheelchair and required care from her parents. The report indicates John Beelman took his daughter Nicole into the backyard and killed her and then himself with a 12-gauge shotgun. The problem is John Beelman was supposedly shot in the back of his head, which couldn't possibly be self-inflicted. According to sources close to the investigation, Paddock was a CIA gun runner. A charger with SVR technology was discovered in Paddock's Mandalay Bay suite. This particular charger is for devices used by U.S. military, special forces, and the CIA. The company that makes the batteries for these devices is Ultralife Corporation, based in New York, that specializes in military communications systems for the Pentagon, and whose lead developer engineer was John Beelman. Beelman was employed by Ultralife Corporation from 2007 to 2012, where he worked on various top-secret communication systems for the U.S. military, thereafter leaving to become a top engineer at the General Motors research facility in Rochester, New York. Suspecting that the Ultralife Corporation had been secretly funneling their U.S. military communications systems to the CIA, the FBI raided the home of John Beelman under a secret U.S. federal court warrant on October 3, 2017. Then the following day at around 5:20 a.m. early in the morning, John Beelman reportedly killed his daughter Nicole and himself. So just to clarify, this information isn't suggesting that John Beelman was in Las Vegas during the shooting. That's not what we're saying. We aren't saying Beelman was killed because he witnessed the shooting. But we do believe John and his daughter were murdered related to this FBI investigation and an Ultralife device found at the Mandalay Bay after the shooting. It is a fact and a matter of public record that the FBI executed a search warrant at the home on October 3, 2017, and both the FBI and federal prosecutors refused to say why the search warrant was issued. And the police confirmed the deaths of John and Nicole Beelman that resulted from gunshots. John Beelman's links to Ultralife are also public facts. A LVMPD sergeant swore under oath that he witnessed Paddock commit suicide. Why would he swear to that under oath unless he either had a part in killing the Paddock lookalike or he had a part in making it appear as suicide? Question mark. Later, Detective Sergeant Jerry McDonald told the press no one witnessed the suspect commit suicide. Both authorities in law enforcement and the coroner failed to prove the Paddock lookalike's identity because it wasn't Stephen Craig Paddock. The coroner used the word tentative, which means uncertain, when referring to the identity, and they never listed what was used to validate the fingerprints. The autopsy lists the time of death as 12 noon on October 2, 2017, the day after the shooting. On October 6, 2017, an autopsy was conducted by medical examiner Dr. Lisa Gavin. On October 30, 2018, the court ordered the release of the autopsy. Coroner John Faudenberg defied the court order, claiming the autopsy wasn't finalized. On February 5, 2018, Dr. Lisa Gavin signed the autopsy a week after a judge ordered its release and 4 months after the autopsy was conducted. So it took 4 months or so for the Paddock lookalike autopsy to be released, and the reason why is because it wasn't really him, it was someone else. I recently permanently deleted 2 videos from YouTube because I trimmed parts out using YouTube Studio Editor and my edits were corrupted during processing, but I presented some good information in them that I will go over again now briefly. One of the videos included Laura Loomer talking about a FBI contact who told her the FBI knew something was going to happen and they could have prevented it but didn't. Loomer then goes on to talk about one of Paddock's bank accounts being flagged for suspicious activity and a FinCEN report. That's spelled FINCEN, which stands for Financial Crimes Enforcement Network and is part of the Department of Treasury. In addition to the bullet strike laser track and the Michaela interview, I'd like to ask Laura about this FinCEN report and her FBI contact. I found out who created the 50-plus page intelligence report implicating Brian Hodge. The report, known as the Johnson-Higgins report, was created by Brad Johnson and Rich Higgins and is not available. The report blames ISIS and people linked to ISIS for the shootings and goes as far as to claim Paddock converted to Islam and disliked Trump, that the shooting was meant to hurt Trump. A caller on Michael Savage Nation who was friends with Paddock said Paddock liked Trump. I have a video with that interview. Unconstitutional gun control legislation is the only thing that unifies liberals and conservatives who oppose it. Gun control legislation pushed by the Obama administration met bipartisan opposition and was unsuccessful. Hillary Clinton also had plans for gun control legislation. There is a pattern of FEMA drills related to most of these high-profile controversial shootings. Truth Be Told radio investigative journalist Dean Ryan was at the Mandalay Bay investigating after the shooting and found out about the FEMA drill from an employee, and Laura Loomer supposedly uncovered a document related to the drill, although I haven't been able to obtain a copy. Reportedly, 30 FBI agents checked into the Mandalay Bay prior to the shooting and were present. The amount of gunfire and then shooters getting away all points to a FEMA drill scam. The FEMA Active Shooter Drill Manual says in order to qualify for the funding, there must be a number of drills that culminate into an event that affects the entire community on a national level, and they want CEOs and the like to be involved, hence the foreknowledge and the George Soros and James Murin illegal insider trading that took place. I went over the above-mentioned portions of the FEMA manual in my Molson Coors shooting video, and Wolfgang Halbert covered it as well, related to James Fetzer's work entitled Nobody Died at Sandy Hook. There are different variations of the FEMA drill scams. In some cases, nobody dies. In other cases, like Las Vegas, the drills culminate into an actual shooting where real bullets fly and people are hit and maybe even killed. There are major problems with the Las Vegas shooting victims' autopsies I'll talk about later. One of the main goals of the FEMA active shooter drill scams is gun control legislation. After the Las Vegas shootings, bump stocks were banned. Remember earlier I talked about unsuccessful gun control legislation historically meeting bipartisan opposition. We have seen it happen repeatedly. Think of the FEMA active shooter drill scam as a last resort, desperate attempt to gain support for the legislation. While it's true that people with ties to groups like ISIS might have been involved in the shootings, we would do well to remember the CIA creates these groups, and I wouldn't focus on that as much as who hired them to shoot at the crowd as part of the FEMA scam. The broken windows don't prove anything as they are installed and then removed from the inside, not from the outside on that particular building. A window could have been removed, a shooter could have shot, then the window could have been put back in place. The strobe light was used as a distraction during the shooting, indicating something well planned and carried out by a group of people, not one elderly accountant. The flashing in the cab driver video appears to be lower and to the left of the strobe light. Let's take a look at those two videos now.
What the fuck is going on? This shit is chaos right now.
It seems like it's coming from up there. Oh, right.
Escorted by the FBI in a wheelchair, Mary Lou Danley has some serious questions to answer.
And I just want to mention, some people previously thought that this was Mary Lou Danley being escorted out of the Mandalay Bay, but apparently she's at the LAX airport. And a lot of information has come forward that she was actually present at the Mandalay Bay or in the area during the shooting. And Laura Loomer she revealed some documents and stuff to show that. And we have some other information that puts Mary Lou in the area of the Mandalay Bay when the shooting occurred. This supposedly was taken after the shooting, and we don't know exactly what happened here. She might have been caught by authorities trying to get out of the country, or she might have left briefly and then came back, but we believe that she was in the area of the Mandalay Bay during the shooting. And she was also injured because she's being wheeled in a wheelchair. But what I want to bring to your attention is, remember this guy right here. Remember what he's wearing and what he looks like, because I've got something interesting I'm going to show you coming up in a moment. And then also remember how she looks too.